Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Oh, 1 minute though. 1 second.
Are we in the, do you put it in the right folder? What? Did you adjust the folder?
All right.
Okay.
You good to go?
Yeah.
Actually, one more thing, Michael. What? Speak to me.
What do you need? 1, 2, 3?
Okay, I had all of them up because I didn't know which one was yours. Now I do.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome to the Young Turks. It is 7th of July, 2011. I'm Michael Shore, in for Cenk. You are in for a good show. We're going to be talking, it's ironic because we're going to be talking about two Americas. I hate now to tip my cap to the former senator from North Carolina, John Edwards, but he was on point when he talked about two Americas. And we're seeing it laid bare right now in the U.S. Congress. We're seeing it in the rhetoric that comes out of Washington. We're seeing the disparity between the people that believe that the rich should be protected and the people that believe that the poor and those who are entitled to a roof over their heads and some medical care and some food. And yes, you know what? If some people slip through the cracks because they are taking advantage of the system, so be it. But when you start making cuts that are benefiting billionaires and millionaires in this country at the expense of those people who are entitled to what America's promise is, then you lose me. And then you lose a lot of Americans. But fortunately, you don't lose the Progressive Caucus. The people that you do lose are senators like Orrin Hatch, the dinosaur. Dinosaurs, I guess, roamed throughout Utah and the West. And it turns out that one of them is still alive in Utah, and that is Senator Orrin Hatch, who I think is trying to align himself back with the sort of popular belief that Republicans are to divide the rich and the poor, because he saw as his colleague Robert Bennett was challenged last time by Mike Lee in a primary, lost that primary, and then, of course, Lee went on to be the senator there at what we can call now a Tea Party senator from Utah. Let's listen to Senator Hatch today, and listen carefully as he draws the distinction between poor and rich America and how everybody's got to do their part. And by the way, I'm not saying that everybody doesn't have to do their part here, but singling out the poor at a time of recession, at a time when getting a job is so difficult, at a time when putting a meal on your table is so difficult, at a time when people are spending all their day with 2, 3, sometimes 4 jobs trying to feed 2, 3, and more mouths at home. It's deplorable that someone who is so out of touch with the way that America works on a daily basis can sit in the United States Senate and say this. This is clip number 2, Lucas.
I preferred shared prosperity by cutting taxes and giving these small businesses and businesses the opportunity to use that money to hire people and get people working and get more people paying taxes. And I think it's abysmal that the bottom 51% do not pay income taxes, and 23 million of them get refundable tax credits from the government that are far more than the payroll taxes that they might have to pay, which are Social Security payments. All I can say is that we have got to get with it around here. And we've got to start working together as Democrats and Republicans in the best interest of the American people, and that is reforming this awful tax code, getting taxes down for everybody, and taking care of the poor, but also expecting everybody to have some skin in the game, except the really poor.
I mean, in fairness, his message was so garbled that it was hard to follow. But what we were able to glean is that he is singling out the poorest Americans for not paying enough tax, for not doing enough, for trying to stay off of the payroll so that they don't have to pay Social Security tax and the like. And that's what I was able to glean from that. Maybe I'm wrong. I can give it a fifth or a sixth listen. But all I can see is a senator who is out of touch with the people he is meant to lead. Orrin Hatch is talking about reforming the tax code, and there is a time and a place for that. And perhaps, I think that the way that we pay taxes in this country is arcane, not because of the tax limits. Listen, God bless the rich. They are paying less tax now than they ever have, certainly since the 50s. Thank God Ronald Reagan isn't in office anymore, because they'd be paying so much more in taxes. But at least we have Barack Obama in there to keep the tax of the rich down, because it is so good to be rich in America right now because you don't have to pay as many taxes. And if you own a hedge fund, my God, that's the best, because you can defer those taxes and you can call those taxes capital gains and only pay 15% on them instead of the whopping 35% that the rich have to pay. It does seem skewed that the bottom 51% of Americans don't have to pay taxes, and I don't even know that that's true. But if you want Senator Hatch to join the bottom 51% of Americans, you want to give up your paycheck, you want to give it up so you don't have to pay taxes, I'm sure they're having a fine time, Orrin Hatch. I'm sure it's great to be in the bottom 51% of money earners in this country. And so the idea that a U.S. Senator could view things in such a skewed way, if his argument is about changing the tax code, there is a time to have that conversation. If he wants to lead that conversation, all the power to him, though he doesn't have very much because he's in the minority. But we'll get to that later. The whole idea that Orrin Hatch can sit there and talk about the poor having to put some skin in the game. The poor, as out of one side of his mouth he's saying that, the skin in the game that he wants to take from the poor, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid from the poor, and we'll get to that in a little bit as well. This is what I was talking about at the top of the show. I guess it's still the top of the show officially, but at the very, very top of the show, when I was talking about two Americas, there is a whole, I would say, chasm in America right now of people who look at the United States as the poor and the rich, the entitled and the working class. Well, the working class, A, can't get jobs right now, and B, when they do work, they're so taxed when it comes to cost of living adjustments not being raised for Social Security recipients, when Medicaid and Medicare benefits are cut, when those are like taxes. You could call them entitlements, but when you cut them, it's like taxing somebody who can't afford it. If you can't afford health care, because the insurance companies have control of Congress. If you can't afford health care because the pharmaceutical companies have control of your senator and your representative, then that is like a tax, even though you're not writing a check to the government. And he's saying the bottom 51% of Americans aren't taxed. And again, I'm repeating what the senator's saying. I don't know that for fact. I don't know those numbers are fact. But if that's the case, they get their taxes in other ways. They're in the bottom 51% of America. They don't get health care. And if you take those things away from them, it is like taxing them without having to make them write a check. I was appalled that Orrin Hatch said this, but I think he does us a favor because what these people are doing, what this debate about raising the debt ceiling, about whether or not we're going to cut, whether or not we're going to raise taxes or raise revenue, what this whole conversation is showing is the two Americas. It's showing that there are people in Congress who are there to protect the billionaires and millionaires, and there are people in Congress like the Progressive Caucus and the House of Representatives, which I think is finally going to have some power here because they're not going to bow to the president and they're not going to bow to the Republicans, and there's going to have to be some middle ground. One side or the other is going to need to bow to them. So this is a good day for progressives if they can stick together. If that caucus can stick together, they can wield some power. Even as a minority in the House, they can wield some power because both sides need their votes in what's coming up here. But in order to do that, they're going to have to speak their case. And speaking their case is going up against somebody like Orrin Hatch, who is talking about how the poor need to buck up. That is the last thing that a U.S. Senator should be talking about in this debate. I don't care who you are. If you want to protect the millionaires and billionaires, that's fine. But to do that and say that the poor need to buck up during the middle of a recession, during high unemployment, during a conversation about cutting benefits, then you're barking up the wrong tree. And Orrin Hatch is doing everybody a favor by showing that he is, I don't think he's some lone voice out there. I think he is echoing the beliefs of a lot of people like himself. And if he's trying to earn his bona fides on this in a political way, because he's coming up for election next year and he's afraid of a primary challenge, or he's, God forbid, afraid of a Democratic challenge in the state of Utah, then he's doing himself a disservice anyway, because nobody wants to hear, no Utahn and no American wants to hear how the poor need to have some skin in the game. That just won't fly. The poor have their skin in the game every single day. It's why we're having this debate. It's why people go to Congress, to protect entitlements to them, to protect the safety net for America. That's what this country is about, and Orrin Hatch just doesn't see that. Orrin Hatch is so damn out of touch with the way America works. I don't know the last time he went out and he spoke to a working American. I don't know who the last person that he bought a beer off of. Well, I guess he wouldn't buy a beer in Utah, but let's say, what would he have? A pop off of in Utah. I don't understand how he could have conversations with average working class, patriotic, Republican poor Americans in Utah, and not come away from it saying, no, I should not single out the poor as the reason that we're in the middle of this. I should not make this a call to arms to the poor to come out and put their skin in the game, as Orrin Hatch says. It's appalling, but again, I think when you see these things, it's like the more we heard of Sarah Palin when she was the vice presidential candidate, yes, the more you heard people love her and cheer for her, but the more you knew about it, the less likely it became that she was going to be the vice president. So I think when you hear these things, these shocking remarks by a U.S. senator, a veteran U.S. senator, it's only helpful. When we come back, speaking of Sarah Palin, we are going to be joined in the next segment by Michael Solomon. Michael wrote a book. What he did is he went through the thousands, I think over 20,000 emails that Sarah Palin sent when she was governor of Alaska that were recently released, and he was able to cull from them, and I think this is brilliant and fantastic, bits and pieces of each of them, and he made a book of poetry written by Sarah Palin, but sort of compiled by Michael Solomon. After that, we'll talk a little bit more about debt ceilings, a little bit more of out-of-touch Republicans, and we'll even visit the campaign trail just a bit. I'm Michael Schur, Young Turks.
Welcome back to the Young Turks. I'm sorry for the long break. It was all because JR wanted to talk about cereal. Okay, he extended this break. I'm just kidding. It takes a while to set up the camera angles. We had a little bit of drums, but it's okay. We're back, and it's my birthday.
Then we wanted random pieces of paper in front of us for no damn reason.
No, it's the printouts.
These are the printouts.
They're the printouts for my hour. For someone
It's
had
Anna's
placed...
birthday. Will you lighten up?
No.
Yeah, apparently not,
No, you know what, though? I actually agree with JR. We always start my hour late. In the beginning, I was irritated with it. It's not your fault. Cenk does it too.
Hey, happy birthday!
Woo!
Look at that.
Beautiful red velvet cake from
That's so pretty.
Sweet Lady Jane.
That is
Very,
the
very
prettiest
nice.
cake I've ever seen.
Look at that.
There's a funny story behind the cake.
Okay.
Everyone who writes in the cake left for the day, so no one could write. So they made me write. So I practiced.
Disaster.
I practiced for 20 minutes, and I still fucked it.
That is a total disaster.
You guys can't see it, but it is the worst cake writing on the planet. But I love it. It makes it personal, and I love it.
I'm not a
Aww.
professional cake writer. After you blow out the candles, you can tilt it and show. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll
no,
get
we
a
can.
good
Well, let's
enough
we
shot.
can do it. Well, yeah, blow out the candles first.
All right, so let me make a wish.
We should sing, right?
Maybe we should sing.
We should sing.
We should all
Yeah.
sing. Come on, guys.
You guys don't have to sing.
Let's sing
We
it
have
right.
abortion
Hey,
stories
come
to
on,
get
come on,
to.
Come on. Can we get Grumpy JR in here too? Is that
No,
possible?
no,
No,
no.
he's not going to come in here. All right, yeah, that's
Ready?
fine.
Everyone go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Anna. Happy birthday to you. And not every girl.
Yay.
Not every girl gets the gay men's choir to come in and sing happy birthday to them, and it's really nice. You should
This
feel
is
lucky
so
about it.
sweet.
She's the queen of the TYT.
Aww.
That's right.
This was extremely sweet. Thank you
Anna
so much.
turns 30 today, everyone. Happy
I'm
birthday.
25. Don't ruin my career. Okay, 25. But, okay, so.
It's great. You're 20 years younger than me.
Let's
Lucas
show-
doesn't get any because he doesn't like cake. Baked
Lucas
goods.
can only have a tablespoon of honey every
Right,
year.
yeah. He doesn't get baked goods.
Which camera is mine? That one?
Steve O did a terrible job writing.
He
as you
did,
can
he
see. I don't know
did.
if you can come tighter with
You
that.
guys probably can't see it. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it's a red velvet cake.
I mean,
I'm
he also
assuming.
has a number of kids, Steve. He should be good at this point.
All right, I love it. You guys are so sweet, and I can't wait to dig into this cake later. But now we talk about abortion. Listen, I prepared an hour for this show. We're gonna get right to it.
Happy birthday.
All right, but in all seriousness, let's get to the stories. Ohio's House has just passed a bill known as House Bill 125, and what this bill would do would basically make abortion illegal as soon as a doctor can hear a heartbeat for the fetus. Okay, and a heartbeat basically is noticeable at 5.5 weeks of pregnancy.
Yeah.
Now,
This would get rid of close to 100% of abortions.
85 to 90% of abortions in Ohio would be illegal under this legislation if it passes. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Right now, the Senate in Ohio is dominated by Republicans, so it's likely to pass. But if it does pass, it is going to be disastrous for the state of Ohio and the taxpayers there, because it will be challenged by people who are supporters of abortion and the right to choose. So.
Yeah, it's one of these, one of these extreme bills. It's basically, I mean, the people in the pro-life movement are the people that think that life begins at conception, and this is basically saying life begins just slightly after conception, because that's basically when you can hear a heartbeat, and it is definitely a regressive law, and again, I think it's going to be challenged constitutionally, and although I would guess that John Kasich's going to sign it, but and if that Republican House approves it.
Right. John Kasich will sign it, but it will be challenged, and I mean it's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Roe v. Wade says that an abortion is legal as long as the fetus is not viable outside the womb.
Right.
Okay, so in this case, at 5.5 weeks, there's no way that fetus would be able to survive outside the womb. So
and the circuit court will hold this up, as they did
Right.
in Kansas and as they do in other states. It's undoubtedly going to be held up. It's not going to be law right away. So.
Right. All right. Bristol Palin is continuing her campaign on her virginity being stolen. Okay. She first had an interview where she talked about how she unwillingly had sex, basically. She didn't say she was date raped, but she said her virginity was stolen from her while she was drunk.
Because she was drunk.
Because she was drunk, exactly.
They gave her drinks to drink. She drunk them.
She was drunk. That was so unexpected from Michael Shore.
There you go.
So now she had an interview with The View. She was talking to Barbara Walters, and she continues this basically huge lie about how she lost her virginity and why she became pregnant. Let's watch the video.
You talk about the night you lost your virginity. You say that you were on a camping trip with friends and you drank too much, and that Levi stole your virginity. Did you not consent to having intercourse with him?
I'm not accusing him of date rape or anything with that. I just use that analogy of losing your virginity. That's why it's called losing your virginity.
Would you if you hadn't been high or drunk? Or
Drunk.
Yeah.
She wasn't high, she had a couple of drinks.
If I wasn't drunk, no, that night would have never happened.
It wouldn't have happened. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so too.
But you were 17 then.
Yeah.
You kept on. It must have been okay because you kept on having sex with him. Yeah? I mean, I'm telling you what your book said.
Oh, I wasn't 17.
Yeah.
I wasn't 17. I was younger than that, and we did it that one night, and then I just figured, I did it once. I guess it's okay to do it again because I had already broken my moral code.
I think did a good job with
She
that
did.
interview.
I mean, it was a great, the way that she re-asked that question was fantastic. And Bristol Palin did conversely, a horrible job with that.
She did the worst job in interview history. I mean, she almost did worse than her mother did with the Katie Couric interview.
Yeah.
What was that? That's why I use that analogy, losing your virginity, because you're losing your virginity. What does that even mean?
And then she's like, well, I just kept doing it because I'd already broken my moral code. That's my favorite part of it. All right.
Unbelievable. There's a very serious aspect of this story as well, because you don't go on this media tirade about how your virginity was stolen from you, you didn't want to lose your virginity. You know, in her book, she talks about how she lost her virginity at camp. So I guess they had sex in a tent or something.
Yeah, camping there, yeah.
Right, and then she wakes up and she says that she didn't even realize what had just happened. That sounds like date rape. You're accusing him of date rape.
Well, she's saying, I mean, she said in so many words, she said, I'm not accusing him. She said, I'm not accusing him of date rape or anything with that. I mean, not remembering, you know, she's saying that she didn't remember. It seems like she remembered. I mean, it doesn't seem like she woke up angry and reported to the authorities. Apparently, they then decided it was so good they would continue doing it. So,
right.
You know, I think date rape thrown out the window here, but it's Bristol Palin for you.
A man from Auburn, Washington, has been, let me start this story again. Okay. I'm too excited about my birthday cake. I can't think straight. A man by the name of Ikenna.
What? Ikenna? What?
Okay.
All right, let's start from
Can I be
scratch.
honest with you right now? I
Yeah.
feel like I'm melting in this room.
Oh, it's hot in this room.
It's unbelievable.
Really warm. But you know what? It's better over on this side. But in any case, tell me what's going on in Auburn, Washington, because I think there's probably a cool story there.
All right.
And it's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. A man from Auburn, Washington was thrown in jail for trying to deposit a legitimate check. Okay, Chase actually called authorities and had him thrown in jail. We have a video that shares more detail into this story. Let's watch and then we'll discuss it.
I was really excited. For the first time, I actually got to buy a lawnmower and mow my lawn and everything.
Buying his own home was a big accomplishment for construction worker Ikenna Njoku. He's only 28 years old. Njoku qualified for the first-time home buyer rebate on his tax return.
It was really important. I mean, I had a vehicle that I was looking on paying off.
It wasn't just any vehicle.
I had a 2001 Infiniti i30 silver. It was just like my favorite car.
Njoku signed up to have the rebate deposited directly into his Chase bank account. But when the IRS rebate arrived, there was a problem. Chase had closed his account because of overdrawn checks in the past. The bank deducted $600 to cover what he owed them and mailed him a cashier's check for the difference, $8,463.21. When Njoku came here to cash the check at the Chase branch near his home, he was in for a nasty surprise. The check had his name and address right on it and was issued by J.P. Morgan Chase. But the customer banker who handles large checks at the Auburn branch was immediately suspicious.
I was embarrassed. I mean, she asked me what I did for a living, and asked me where I got the check from. Looked at me up and down like, oh, you just bought a house in Auburn, really? It's like she didn't believe that.
The banker says the check looked fake, so she took it, along with Njoku's driver's license and credit card, and called bank support. Njoku says after about 15 minutes, he got impatient and told Chase he was leaving to do an important errand.
By the time I got back, the branch was closed.
Njoku says he called customer service and was advised to go back the next day to get his money. But when he arrived, it wasn't his money that was waiting for him.
Hey, they just threw me in jail. They called the police and said, this guy has a fraudulent check.
Auburn police arrested Njoku for forgery, a felony crime.
I was just like, well, you're making a mistake, You're making a big mistake. You're going to take me to jail, I got work tomorrow. I can't afford to miss work.
Njoku was taken to jail on Thursday, June 24th. The next day, Chase realized its mistake. So they called and left Auburn police a voice message. But no one heard it. Njoku stayed in jail for the entire weekend. Finally, on Monday, he was released.
And I was just stressed out, just trying to figure out what's going on with my vehicle. You know, I love my vehicle.
And Njoku's car was towed from the bank parking lot and his check seized as evidence.
And my car got sold in auction. It got auctioned off, and my car got sold.
Because you didn't have the money to get it out?
Because I didn't have the money to get it out. I lost my job as well.
After all of that, Njoku says he never heard a word from Chase.
They haven't even sent me a letter or apologized. It's been a year. We've been trying to contact these guys.
Ways did Chase fail in that story?
Yeah, I want to close my Chase account after hearing this story.
I love that you just said that, because I also have a Chase account. And I've been looking, to be fair to myself, I've been looking for a community bank or a credit union to put my money in for a while, and I'm comparing, you know, all of the different benefits and rates and things like that. But Chase is just, they're robbing people. They're robbing the American people. They're doing this. I mean, this is, in my opinion, this is a clear case of racism. Why are they questioning this guy's check?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not anybody. It's I mean, not to insult your opinion. It's not even your opinion. This is a clear case of racism. This was somebody who saw a black man walk into the bank with a check that seemed too high for his balance, his average balance, who was shocked that he had bought a house in the neighborhood. I mean, it is racism. This is modern day racism. This is what racism looks like. And you know, again, you always have to remember that it's important that these stories are shown and told, and news is covering it, because there was a time in the not so distant past where these stories wouldn't warrant a news story. And it's, you know, that is racial progress too, that we can show this story to so many people and get people really upset about it as well. So I mean, I think there's progress when we see these things publicized, but it's offensive to think about, and it makes you upset if you even have $1 at Chase, not because you feel your money's in a bad place, but because bad people work at this place, and that they haven't done anything in a year. They haven't responded. They haven't reacted. This man went to jail for 5 days.
Right.
This man, they should have gone down to the jailhouse and had him released instead of leaving a voicemail.
Yeah, first of all, them just leaving a voicemail and leaving it at that just shows you that, first of all, they realize that they made a mistake and they just don't care.
Yeah.
Okay, if you knew that an innocent man was sitting in jail, you would go out of your way to make sure you reach someone, you talk to a live person. You don't leave a voicemail and then you just ignore it. And then on top of that, this situation occurred a year ago. He lost his car, he lost his job, okay? He spent time in jail. What has Chase done to make this situation better? Absolutely nothing. This happened a year ago. He still doesn't, he doesn't have his car back.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to me that it had to come to the point where an attorney or where someone leaked this story to the media, for the media to get on Chase, Chase to actually even consider doing something. And so far, as far as we know, Chase hasn't done anything. Yeah. So.
Nothing. I mean, that's what they're taking it under advisement. The Chase person says, we'll be reaching out to the customer. We received the letter and are reviewing the situation.
Yeah, that's not good enough.
Right.
He spent 5 days in jail.
There should be no delay. There's no situation to review. There should be no delay in reviewing. This is the story, and Chase has to do something about it immediately. And they have to pay huge reparations. I mean, it's terrible.
JR, are you comfortable with sharing the story of the Chase teller that you had to deal with?
Yeah, well, earlier when we were talking about this, when I heard the story earlier, it was a situation where I go into a Chase every month and I have a transaction. I get money from one account and put it in theirs and then do my whole thing. And I do it every month. It's a basic thing because the online situation didn't work. I actually hate it half the time because of how much it doesn't work or how you just don't have enough control. I feel like I have a slightly less level of control. But anyway, so I do it in person. And it was in a nice block, very nice part of the neighborhood. And I was heading to work, so I decided to go in there. And I was like, I have to do it today or else I'm not going to do it. As soon as I get in there, I asked him to do the transaction. And she said, okay, so if we do this this cash advance, if it doesn't work, then if it doesn't go through, then I can't do it anymore on my computer. You'd have to go to the next teller. This is before she swipes my card. And I was like, well, I knew exactly what she was saying immediately, And then so instead of going, well, what the hell are you talking about? I'd like to play dumb and try and get them to continue to maybe see what they're saying. And so I said, oh, well, why wouldn't it go through? Is there something wrong with your system? Is your system going to scan my card, not get it now, and then if I scan it again later, it's going to scan it again? You're going to take me for double the amount? I said, oh, no. I'm just saying if it doesn't work here, And this one, she still didn't get it. She's still saying, no, black guy, I'm just telling you, if you don't have the money in here, which I know you don't, then you're going to have to go to the next one to try and get it to work again, because I know you probably barely have the money. So it went through over and over again. I didn't want to really get into it that much, so afterwards, I think I let it linger a little bit more. I came back to it again a few minutes later in the conversation. And she's just oblivious to it. It was the first thought that came to her mind, and she was like, well, of course. And so I left, and I wanted to like contact them and cause a problem, because I'm a little bit like, I've gotten to the point when I was younger, you'll think, well, there's nothing I can do about it, you know, when I'm like 17, 18 years old. And then I'm thinking, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just a kid, whatever. At this point, I've almost gotten a little bit of an attitude which I always try to avoid. And the first thing I wanted to say was, do you understand, first of all, how important of a customer I am? You know, do you understand? Like, and just basically almost on that, you should value me personally more than anybody else. Because, you know, I mean, things can change. You can talk to people. The word can spread very easily about this type of thing. And you just write me off as anybody else. You have no idea who I am. Right. So I didn't do it just because I felt like, next time.
I like that you have the attitude. I think the attitude is important. Because
do you like it when he gets upset that the Anna show is starting late?
I do like it because he's like sticking up for the hour, showing me that the hour is important to him.
Right.
So
all right,
you know, it means something. It means something. I like the attitude.
No, but JR's right. I mean, this gives light though, and I'll let you go in a second, but it gives light to the fact that, you know, major racial stories don't happen very often in America. But racism in America, for people against whom it is practiced, is a series of minor inconveniences constantly. And I think you would agree with that, right, JR? I mean, it's not established and not sort of industrialized racism, but it's that life presents a series of inconveniences.
Right, and that's the thing. And I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure that, of course, from the top, Chase didn't say, okay, this particular teller, when you see a black guy come in here, make sure you wonder if he has enough money in his account. It's just the mindset. And then so especially in a particular neighborhood, they're like, well, come on. And I've done it all over. I do it at a different location every time I do it. So it's not like, you know, it's the first time I've done it.
Wait a second, that's pretty fishy.
I mean, Chase banks are everywhere.
Oh,
as
yeah.
They keep telling us.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You can stop at any corner.
Right,
and find
that's
one.
true, yeah.
Okay, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, the obesity rate in the United States continues to rise. I'm going to tell you what percentage of people in Mississippi are obese.
Right. Only 50% of the people in this studio are.
You're terrible. You're not obese. But it's a fascinating story. We'll be back with that and more after the break.